welcome to the Big Bear Homestead. Come join me today as we make pull-apart sticky bun bread, or what I like to call monkey bread. Okay, so all of these recipes that I'm bringing to you, each one of them has a story and a special place in the background and my history of cooking and learning to bake. This particular recipe, I heard everybody talking about monkey bread, so I wanted to make monkey bread. So I looked up a recipe because I had no idea what it actually was, and I found all different types of recipes, and they all seem to have something to do with biscuits, and then also cinnamon, sugar, and butter. Well, then I ran across this one recipe, and it sounded absolutely divine. It had cream cheese bites inside each one of the actual parts that you pull apart to eat. And I thought, wow, that's just got to be delicious. So, of course, I tried it. And this is that recipe. It is fantastic, and I'm going to show you how to make it here. Okay, so let's talk ingredients. The very first thing you're going to need is 3/4 of a cup of pecans, chopped pecans. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of butter, and you're going to actually split that up 2 tablespoons, and then the rest of it, the 6 tablespoons, you're going to melt all of it but divide it. So I would recommend melting the 2 tablespoons by itself and then the 6 tablespoons by themselves as well, and separate it that way. You're going to need 1/3 of a cup of maple syrup. If you've got the fancy actual maple syrup, that's fine. Otherwise, I use Log Cabin brand syrup. Doesn't matter, as long as it's something nice, sticky, and sweet. But obviously, the real maple syrup would actually be better. You're going to need 2 6-ounce rolls or tubes of the flaky biscuits. And the reason why it's important that they're the flaky biscuits is because in the recipe, you're going to have to pull them apart. So make it a lot bit easier if you do it that way. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of sugar and a tablespoon of cinnamon, and then you'll need 1 8-ounce brick of cream cheese. Okay, y'all, very first step, go ahead and preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And the next thing you'll do is go ahead and take your fluted pan, and you're going to want to grease it, get it nice and greased up so that nothing sticks to the pan when we cook it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take all of your pecans and you're going to put them in the top of the pan. Okay, just like that. Then you're going to take your 2 tablespoons of butter, and you're going to pour that over the top of the pecans. And then you'll take the 1/3 cup of syrup and go ahead and pour that in there as well. Just kind of spread it out evenly so you've got a nice coating on the top. Then when you're done with that, go ahead and we'll take that pan and put it off to the side for a second. Okay, so this next step can be a little tricky if you're reading the directions, so I'm going to break it down for you so you won't mess it up like I did the first couple of times. It says, and I quote, "Separate biscuits, each split in half horizontally." But they put a semicolon in there, and so it sounds like you're supposed to split them apart, and then you're supposed to cut them horizontally and split them. But if you do the math later down the road, it tells you to cut 20 pieces of cream cheese, and if you do the math, that doesn't work out right. So really, all the directions mean is you take each biscuit, break it in half. That's it. Don't worry about horizontally or vertically or whatever. Just take them and pull them apart. Very simple. So we'll go ahead, open these up. I hate when they make the noise. This one actually says I gotta have a spoon, but of course you can use your fingers. Okay, and you just take each one, and they'll pull apart pretty simply. At least usually they do. There you go, see? You can kind of start pulling apart and find the middle, and then you have your 2 halves. Okay, so you're gonna do that with all of them. And since there's 5 in each packet, That makes 10 biscuits. Cut them in half. That makes 20 pieces. And that's what you're looking for. Okay, and now we're done. Okay, the next step is to take that second part of your melted butter, which will be 6 tablespoons. Go ahead and put it in a shallow bowl or any kind of workspace that you'll be able to dip into. You'll be able to dip the biscuits into the container. And this is plenty of space, so you don't need anything really big. And then the next thing you'll do is put the cinnamon and the sugar into a separate bowl. And you want it to be kind of shallow so that you don't have to reach deep down into it to roll your pieces in. So half a cup of sugar and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And you'll want to go ahead and mix that together so that it kind of gets everything spread around. You want the cinnamon and the sugar to mix together. Kind of like, I don't know if you've ever had it like cinnamon sugar toast. You kind of want it to look like that. Have a nice brown, light brown color to it. Okay, so we're almost ready to start putting this thing together. There's one more step we still have to do. Okay, so our next step to put together our whole assembly line is to cut the cream cheese, the 8-ounce cream cheese bar, into 20 cubes. So, best way to do this, at least in my experience of doing this, is to divide it long ways in half and then in half again, so in quarters, and then cut 5 pieces. You'll see how I do this. Alright, so first thing I do is I cut it in half. Okay, and then I cut it in half again, which of course then makes quarters. Okay, and then going long ways, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, perfect. So there's 4, 8, 12, 16, and then 20. Okay, pretty simple. Now we'll get everything set up so that we can put everything together and put it in the pan. Okay, so here's where it starts to get fun. We're going to start putting this together where it'll all start to come together into where it's a pull apart ring for you. So the very first thing you do, you're going to take one of these cubes. Remember, you got 20 of them. They're pretty decent size. You're going to roll it in the sugar. This is why it helps to have it as a shallow bowl. You're going to take one of your pieces of bread. You're going to put that cube into the biscuit, and then you're going to spread it and fold it over, and then make sure that you pinch the sides so that it stays sealed. Okay? Then you're going to dip one side in butter, dip it back in the cinnamon sugar, and then put it in your container. And you're going to do that 20 times. So just in case you didn't see that the first time, let's do it one more time. You're going to take this cube of cream cheese, 1 cube, remember we got 20. You're going to roll it in the cinnamon sugar. Okay? Take a piece of your biscuit, place it in the center, fold it over, pinch the sides so that it doesn't leak out. Okay? Dip one side in butter, dip it back in the cinnamon sugar, and put it in the container. Okay, so one real quick addendum to this recipe As I said before, the recipe is kind of confusing and all the different things that it tells you to do and not to do and how to do it. One of the things they do tell you in the recipe is to take, when you dip the biscuit into the butter and then into the cinnamon sugar and then put it into the pan, you're supposed to put them with the cinnamon sugar facing up. Now, if you've watched any of my other shows, you know that I don't follow recipes very well. And I will tell you that I have done this where I just threw them in the pan. It didn't matter which way they were up. It still turns out fabulous. But to keep with the integrity of the recipe, cinnamon sugar side up. Okay? So what we do to finish this off before we put it in the oven, you take the remaining part of the butter and you're going to pour that on over your mixture real evenly as you can, obviously. Okay. And then take the last of the cinnamon sugar and do the same thing. You know, kind of just spread that all throughout your mixture. Half a cup doesn't seem like a lot until you have a lot left over and you got to put it in there. Okay. So now that that's done, we're going to put it in the oven. Remember, you should have preheated your oven at 375, and you're going to bake this for 25 to 30 minutes. So we'll put this in the oven, and we'll see what happens when it comes out. Okay, so here's the moment of truth. It's been about 25 minutes, and we pulled it out of the oven, and this is what it looks like when it's done. I've let it cool just a little bit so I can touch the pan a little. There we go. Okay, and then what I do is I always grab one of my cake carriers that I'm going to take, whether it's to a function or whatever. And the reason why I do that is because it has a nice a cover that goes on the top of it. And then that way it kind of protects it from everything, including our dog that likes to try and jump up on counters. So basically all we're going to do is just flip this on there. And if you've greased your pan really well, it should come right off. Of course, mine doesn't seem to want to do that. I'm going to jiggle it a little bit. Okay. And it's a little sticky. So, take your, there you go. All right. And there you have it. Nice and pretty. It's got the pecans on top. And it's nice and hot. Now with this recipe, it does suggest that you serve it warm. Let it cool off just a little bit because it's piping hot right now. But you want to serve it warm. And then when you are done eating it, go ahead and cover it up. Put it in the refrigerator. That is if you have any leftovers. Put it in the refrigerator. And then if you want to eat it again, go ahead and heat it up just a little bit. It's better that way because of the cream cheese. So I'm glad you came by. Glad you got to sit here and watch me struggle through this recipe. Try it again yourself, and I'd love to see the comments. So if you like this video, just give it the like, share, comment, and you know, all that other stuff. So until next Sunday, thank you and have a nice day.